Hey, everybody. Welcome to the 10% Happier podcast. I'm your host, Dan Harris. Today, we're going to talk to the legendary tech journalist, Kara Swisher, about the misleading and often very expensive longevity bullshit that we all encounter online and elsewhere. Kara Swisher is not only going to debunk some of this stuff, but she's also going to talk about what she has found in her research actually works to live a longer and healthier life. Some of the things she'll talk about that actually work you will have heard of, but she will also reveal some really interesting technological innovations that are coming down the pike at us that could have far-reaching and really awesome effects on the species. Many of you will know Kara Swisher. She is, as I said, a legendary tech journalist. She's been around for a minute. She is the co-host of the Pivot podcast. She co-hosts that alongside Scott Galloway, who's been on the show a couple times. She has a solo podcast that's called On with Kara Swisher. But most relevant for this podcast, she is the star and host of a new docuseries on HBO Max that just dropped that's called Kara Swisher Wants to Live Forever. So we'll talk to Kara Swisher right after this quick break. A few things before we hear from our sponsors. We've got this awesome new series launching soon on my new-ish meditation app, 10% with Dan Harris. Many people ask me, how do I get started in Buddhism? How do I learn more about it? How do I go deeper? So we are now going to provide a solution. Every week this summer, for 8 weeks, every Sunday, the great Buddhist teacher, Sharon Salzberg, is going to host a live session every Sunday at 4, starting on July 12th at 4 p.m. Eastern, then running for 8 weeks. And every week she's going to break down one aspect of the foundational Buddhist list, the Eightfold Path, the Noble Eightfold Path. This is the Buddha's cookbook for human happiness. It talks about how to get better at seeing the world clearly, how to get better at meditation, how to get better at dealing with other people, how to get better at work. It really is quite comprehensive. And like I said, it is a great way to dip your toe into Buddhism, or if you've already learned quite a bit about the Dharma, this is a great way to go deeper. Sharon, during these 8 live sessions, will guide a meditation, talk a little bit about one aspect of the Eightfold Path, and then take your questions. Of course, if you miss any of the live sessions, you can always watch them on demand. You can get all of this on the aforementioned 10% with Dan Harris meditation app. If you want to get the app, it's at danharris.com. Again, that's danharris.com. There's a free 14-day trial if you want to try before you buy. I hope you'll come check it out. We'll be right back after this. Quick word from 8 Sleep. As you know, Kara Swisher just made a documentary about longevity, which means she spent an extraordinary amount of time talking to people who study what it takes to extend a healthy life. And what you find pretty consistently is one of the most important levers to pull is sleep. It's not the flashiest intervention, but it's so important. And so my question to you is, are you sleeping well or not? 8 Sleep, one of our sponsors today, makes a product called the Pod, which my family and I use. It's a cover that goes on top of your existing mattress. It heats and cools each side of the bed independently and automatically, anywhere from 55 to 110 degrees. Here is the actual science behind it. Your core body temperature has to drop to enter deep sleep. That's not a claim from 8 Sleep. That's the basic physiology. The Pod helps that happen. It also tracks your heart rate, your HRV, breathing, and sleep stages, all without having to wear something like a ring or a watch. 8 Sleep says the Pod is built on over 1 billion hours of sleep data. Their own clinical studies suggest users can get up to 34% more deep sleep and fall asleep up to 44% faster. Individual results vary. A quick legal note here, the Pod is not a medical device and should not be used as a substitute for professional medical advice. As I mentioned, my family and I really enjoy the Pod. It's super comfortable. And it's got this really elegant readout on an app that goes on your phone that tells you how you slept the night before. It's really nice to have the bed cool you down, and then you can set it so that it will warm you back up in the morning. Also, if like me, you snore, the Pod can automatically raise up your head, which changes how you breathe and therefore whether you snore. So lots of amazing features on this product. You can use the code Dan Harris at 8sleep.com/Dan Harris for up to $350 off the Pod 5. There's a 30-day trial if you don't love it. Kara Swisher, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for coming to my home here at
I
Vox
know.
Media.
I'm happy to, for you, I'm happy to
Thank
travel.
you so much for doing that. I appreciate it.
Total pleasure. Congratulations on the new show.
Thank you.
When I first heard about it, I was like, I didn't think of you as a wellness person.
I'm not.
Well, but then I learned about your backstory.
That's right.
Are you comfortable talking about your dad?
Absolutely. That whole show begins in my dad's grave, so I have to be, I guess. And it ends with my brother talking about my dad.
What's the story there for those who don't know?
So my dad died when I was 5 of a cerebral hemorrhage. He was 34 years old, and he just gotten out of the Navy. And he had not a hard scrabble life, but he went in the Navy because he couldn't pay for college or medical school. And so he had just gotten out, had 3 kids. He got his first big job, and then he died just like that. And there's a great book called The Loss That Is Forever that I always loved. And it's about how if you have a parent that dies at a young age, the trauma alone is hard, right? As if half your friends died because it's your parent. And he was a very active parent. It changed my life in both, I wouldn't say good ways, but helpful ways in terms of coping with anything, because my brothers and I are very highly functional. And so I was always sort of aware of death in the background, because when you have someone who dies, with someone close that dies when you're a young age, you are aware of death from the very beginning. And it really helps inform your life, meaning it makes you happier in a weird way because you aren't scared of anything. You know that trauma could happen in any second or disaster, and you've gotten through it. And so I was very functional, and my brothers are really functional, and which is a weird term, but it's true. We're very we go right through. We're really, nothing ever drags us down. And so it always stuck with me about thinking about death all the time, but not in an obsessive Wednesday Adam kind of way, not that kind of thing. But it was more like, okay, I'm going to die someday, and therefore I'm going to do this, and therefore I'm going to do that, and therefore I'm not going to wallow in this. And so I was really interested in it. And then when I got to Silicon Valley, I was just covering tech just the way I covered tech. I was a really good tech reporter, did a lot of interviews. But one of the things that kept coming back with these guys was this longevity thing. But it wasn't just longevity. It wasn't just being healthier or, collapsing lifespan and health span, which you were aware of that which is a pretty good concept. But it was like, what can we do to hack the body as if it was a computer or a robot or something? And I found it narcissistic. I found it not interested in humanity. I thought they were doing enormous damage to the psyche of America, especially, but the world at large. But all they wanted to do was keep their meat sack going. And for what? And so I decided to combine my 2 interests in death and awareness of death. And then I want to look at the same time, the charlatanism of social media around health and wellness, and then some of the really big breakthroughs that are actually happening that will help us all. So it's kind of a grab bag.
I have a million questions about the grab bag and all of the things you learned, but just staying on a biographical tip for a second, I think your interest was spurred not just by losing your father so young, but also you had a health scare.
I did. I left that one out. Oops. I had a stroke when I was in my, I think, 48, 49. And I was doing an event in China with Walt Mossberg. I ran a big tech conference, very famous. It was our first international one, and we were doing it in Hong Kong. And I was flying there, and I got to Hong Kong, and I had a headache, and I had migraines. I had migraines. I just did. And I get to the hotel room. I go to sleep. I still have this headache, and I wake up. And I start typing a story about Yahoo. They did something else. They fucked up something. And I was like, oh, these fuck ups. And I said out loud, another fuck up from Yahoo. And it came out, and I was like, that's weird. It was weird. And I go to eat a strawberry because I'd ordered room service, and it fell out of my mouth. And I was like, this is strange. What's happening? And I felt tingling in my hand. And I couldn't speak. And so I went into the bathroom, I'll never forget this, and I start doing the Oscar Mayer bologna song. I don't know why. This is like, if I had died right there, that would have been my last moment of singing. But it's a good song. My bologna has a first name. It's OSCA. And it was like, it was a complete aphasia, essentially. And so I was like, what do I do? And so I texted my brother because I couldn't talk. And I texted Walt Mossberg, who was also in Hong Kong at the time. My brother's a doctor. And then I got in the shower and went up to breakfast. I was like, this is weird kind of thing. And by the time I got to breakfast, it was cleared up. I was able to talk. I felt like I was like when you get your teeth filled, when you have that, I had that. But it was mostly resolved, essentially. And my brother, the time difference was so that my brother was asleep or whatever. He just couldn't get back to me. And then he did. And he's like, you're having a stroke, Kara. Get to the hospital. I was like, what are you talking about? I'm fine. Like, I totally insulted him as a doctor. He goes, just do me the favor. Go and have an MRI, please. Just as for me to make me feel better. And I said, fine. And I go to the hospital in Hong Kong, Chinese hospital, and they were like, you're having a stroke. So, but I was fine. They gave me medication right away. And it turned out I had a hole in my heart that the blood clot went through.
And it's been cured?
It's cured. Well, cured. What is cured? I have a thing called thick blood, F5, F something or other, essentially Mediterranean blood. That's the way they refer to it sometimes. And I had a hole in my heart, and just recently I had a plug put in, but because I didn't want, at the time it was open heart surgery, and I thought, I don't think so, because that has its own, like, why would I have open heart surgery? Until a doctor said, little bits of blood are going through the hole into your brain. You're going to be demented, at, I don't know, not 60s, but you could have dementia because of it. And I'm like, I feel like I'm going to fix that. And then now it was 20 minutes, 20-minute surgery.
So that's the psychological backdrop for this new show.
Death. Everywhere.
Yes, death or near death.
Mortality.
Yes, mortality. So I was thinking we could kind of divide this into two buckets.
Sure.
The first bucket is the bullshit. Like, I'd be curious, like, yes. And then I want to get to what works. Well, maybe let's start the bullshit conversation by talking about Bryan Johnson.
Ah, yes.
Who
Not
is
all
he?
bullshit, by the way.
Yeah, well, that's what's interesting to me. Who is Bryan Johnson, for those who don't know?
Well, it was interesting. He was a guy who had a tech company, and I actually wrote about it when he sold it. He sold it for $800 million or something like that. It was a payments company. And he came to my conference, actually, one of my last conferences. I did these little, people showed off new technology. So I gave them a spotlight. It was called Spotlight. And he showed off a lot of this brain research he had been doing after he sold his company, because he had a lot of money and free time. And he had a depression problem. And so he was depressed for many years. And he was talking about the uses of the human brain and different things and psychedelics. I found it a very interesting area for him to explore. And so I had him up on stage, and it was fascinating. I remember thinking, this is really promising, and this is really interesting that he's talking about how to deal with trauma through a variety of new technologies and innovations. And then he shows up a couple of years later looking like this. Like, he looks, as he says, like a motherfucking Patrick Bateman killer, right? He himself understands the problem. And he had gotten very much into making himself a one-man experiment for longevity. And a lot of it is interesting. I mean, olive oil, who can argue, kind of thing. But he measured everything. And he, to me, was the absolute version of Silicon Valley I could not stand. This idea that measuring yourself in such a narcissistic way is going to help all of humanity. Like, I am here as the great thing. And it has godlike tendencies. And then he had this don't die thing, which he was being very cute about. And no, I'm not talking about living forever. Just don't die. And I'm like, okay.
And a whole show on Netflix.
He did. And it's interesting. But he became kind of a joke when he did the blood trading with the plasma transfer between his son, his father, and himself. And again, I don't mind people stunting it on the longevity stuff, but he was almost cult-like the way he did it. And of course, he records his erections, he records his sleep. Now, lately, he's been tweeting about every time he has sex with his girlfriend, who's now into this, and now she's talking about her numbers. The whole thing is very strange. I find it very strange and vaguely sad. But I thought it was interesting because it's a mentality taken to the extreme of Silicon Valley, which is everything is hackable.
And so I think your point, and we'll get to this later, is that it's fine to think about being as healthy as for as long as possible.
And using innovations.
Right.
Yeah, necessary.
But if it's fueled by narcissism.
Right. It's an experiment of one. That's what I said to him. And I was quite clear with him. And actually, very nicely, he wrote, and I said, well, that was tough, but you were fair. And I think that's what I wanted to hear him, because he had become such a circus act that everyone could easily make blood guy, And I'm like, no, there's something very complex going on here. And some of his advice, creatine, absolutely. Interesting. Really interesting, promising science. And some of it, like stem cells that he inserts, or he liked, what was the thing he was into? Rapamycin. And then he stopped because it didn't work. And but he had all these people using it, and I found it very dangerous because he's not a doctor. He's not an expert. It's an experiment of one. And he's giving all this advice and influencing people. And again, it was sort of writ large, all the social influencers that are full of nonsense that drove me crazy. And sometimes it's just costly. Sometimes it's bad information and making you not trust your doctors, which I think is very deleterious to our society. And some of it is just crazy. Just some of it is just nuts, some of his stuff. And I don't know what measuring his erections is going to do for the rest of us. And if it cured cancer, I mean, I'm good at it. Sometimes I think he's trolling people in that regard, but whatever. It's just weird that you spend your whole life measuring it. Time slips away while you measure yourself constantly.
Exactly.
And that to me was the sad part, is his, and he lives in this, he has a house that's pulled back from the sun because certain sun rays are bad. I was like, but the sun is so nice. Or he eats in this way that's really joyless. Talk about lack of happiness. It's joyless. And it's, I don't think it adds maybe an hour to his life, maybe, but there's no proof that it adds any time to his life.
I'm going to invoke a controversial name, because the story is good. This is not in any way an endorsement of who I'm about to bring up, but Peter Attia, who got and justifiably in quite a bit of trouble for his texts
idiotic Epstein
with
quotes,
Epstein.
Yeah.
But
speaking of pussy having no carbs,
exactly right.
An asshole.
Anyway, so Attia, Dr. Peter Attia, who's written a very successful book about longevity, at one point he's in the middle of a kind of very similar move of just quantifying everything, obsessed with living forever. And the great Esther Perel, who is his therapist at this period of time, she says to him, "Why do you want to live forever if you're so miserable?"
Correct. That Esther puts her finger on it. And that was my thing. It was weird because one of the things when I was doing it, I ran into Zeke Emanuel, who I love, who's a cancer researcher and everything, and brother of Ari and Ram, and just this remarkable family, actually. And we were driving back from something we did in Philadelphia. And he goes, I want to write a book about longevity, because I was telling him about what I was working on. And he goes, I should write. And he did. He actually got it out. He wrote Eat Your Ice Cream, I think it was. And I go, well, what's the book's title? And he said, Peter Attia is a schmuck. That was the name of the book. And I was like, that is a fantastic title. Because he was making that point. Like, and he also thought some of Peter's science was not on point, right? It's always selling something. It's a supplement. It's selling this, selling that. Right. By the way, some supplements are okay. Like, that's the other thing. I'm not going to go full hog any other way, but a lot of it is just a grift by a lot of people. And in Peter Attia's case, I think that book is Outlive, right? Outlive. Some of it's okay information. It's just the obsession. And he sort of plays to a vain male demographic. And then he does all the concierge medicine, which is how he got mobbed up with Jeffrey Epstein, right?
Right.
And the whole thing is so sad. I don't know what else to say. I find it sad. Now, apparently, he is a schmuck, as it turns out, from those Epstein notes.
They were not a good look, at the very least.
Schmuck is the word I would think is a
schmuck's fair word. This dietitian friend of mine, sorry, I had my own little mini stroke there. Her name is Evelyn Tribole, and she talks about this biohacking mentality that men have.
Yeah,
women have it too, but I think it's disproportionate
among men. May I make
a
point?
Yes.
When women talk about eating in a way that's somewhat troubling, it's an eating disorder. When men have it, it's body hacking.
That is exactly her point. This is a body dysmorphism dressed up as science.
That's right.
And I think it's really true. And I have to say, there have been periods in my own life where I've fallen into that.
Of course. It's like dieting. Oh, if only this grapefruit diet would work. You're always hoping for a solution, right? And so to me, it takes advantage of people's natural inclination to want to better themselves or look better or feel younger or whatever, because the society is an onslaught of, you're too old, fix your face, and but men do it. And it's so I was at innumerable dinners in Silicon Valley. It started to happen after they got money and they had a little more time. They started to look at their very unattractive bodies, I guess. And they're attracting people because they're rich. One guy was like, this one really hot woman came up to him after he went public and he goes, well, you think she likes me? I go, I'm sure it's your face. And he's like, fuck you. I was like, it's your wallet, my friend. That's fine, which is fine. But one of the things, like the Google guys used to do all manner of tests. Like Larry Page wore a pollution monitor and was telling me all about it. I was like, well, how's that going to actually help anybody or you to know that it's there? Well, I'm aware of it. I'm like, and what's the next step? And so first they started doing these full body scans. That's where it began. Like, and then everything about themselves, and most of which was pointless data. And some of it isn't. Again, it's always a mixed bag with this stuff. And then they started the fasting stuff. That went on for quite a long time. Soylent, if you recall, that was another. I had to cover those guys. And then it was intermittent fasting, and then it was psychedelics, and then it was all manner of peptides was there after that, and which is still here. It just goes on. And then Elon was the one who, kept calling the body meat sacks to me, and like that, downloading your brain, putting it into the ether, living forever via another meat sack or something like that. And so it just was like, I was so sick of it. I was like, I think I'll just do a documentary series about it. I'm also writing a book about it.
I was talking to a friend of mine the other day who's much younger than me. She was thinking a lot about how to keep her brain sharp, and so she was getting back into meditation. She was taking piano lessons again, and she was learning a new language, which brings me to one of our sponsors today, Rosetta Stone. Many of us have tried learning another language before, maybe Spanish in high school or a few phrases for a trip. But when it's time to actually use those skills, we realize that just knowing a few words is not the same as a real conversation. Rosetta Stone Sapphire is a major new release in language learning, combining Rosetta Stone's trusted immersion method with the latest innovations in education technology to help you go from knowing phrases to speaking confidently about the topics you care about. I was not the greatest student, but one of the things I always loved was learning a new language, and I love the approach that Rosetta Stone takes. They're not one size fits all. Most language apps teach the same generic topics. Sapphire helps you focus on what you actually want to talk about. If you want to take your language skills to the next level, don't wait to try Rosetta Stone Sapphire. 10% happier listeners can get 20% off their Rosetta Stone Sapphire subscription when they sign up today. You'll get unlimited access to all 25 Rosetta Stone languages, plus all the new Sapphire learning tools. Visit rosettastone.com/happier to redeem your 20% off. That's rosettastone.com/happier and start learning a language for real. Grilling season is here. And let's be honest, the difference between a good cookout and a great one comes down to the quality of the stuff you're grilling. You can have the best grill setup in the world, but if what you're cooking isn't great, it shows. All of this brings me to one of our sponsors today, ButcherBox, a company that my family and I use ourselves. They deliver premium, responsibly sourced meat right to your door, so you're starting with the good stuff every time. My family and I are not huge meat eaters. I spent many years as a vegetarian myself, and my diet is heavily weighted in that direction. But when I do eat meat, I want it to be, as I said, high quality and responsibly sourced. ButcherBox delivers over 100 premium protein options straight to your door, from grass-fed beef to wild-caught seafood. It's all raised and sourced the right way. No antibiotics, no added hormones, no fillers, just clean, reliable protein you can feel good about. Plus, it's super flexible. You can customize your box based on whatever you're cooking, and it all ships free with recipes, grilling tips, and exclusive deals. As an exclusive offer, new listeners can get their choice between free ribeye or top sirloins for a year, or ground beef and bacon for a year, plus $20 off when you go to butcherbox.com/happier. That's right, your choice of ribeye or top sirloins for a year, or ground beef and bacon for a year, plus $20 off your first box, and free shipping always. That's butcherbox.com/happier. Don't forget to use our links so they know we sent you. Where do you come down on some of these things you've just listed? Peptides, pan scans?
Don't need the scan. They don't. A good annual physical is fine. It's fine if you want to do it for your own enjoyment. You happen to have the money, but it doesn't give you any, unless you find yourself to have a tumor, which, okay, that's a good thing to find. But for the most part, you get these false positives, and you do more tests that you don't need.
Right.
So it doesn't really give you an enormous amount of insight. It only gives you insight in the moment, in that moment of your body's time. So it's expensive and kind of pointless in a lot of ways. A good annual physical with a series of blood tests is plenty. And most people should have those, which they don't in this country. Well, we can get to that in a minute. And the other thing is, so that I'm like, you don't need that unless you have so much money. And I still don't understand why you don't even understand that data or what it means. And again, it's a snapshot in time. Peptides that's the new trendy thing. Look, GLP-1's are peptides, right? So, a lot of people are using them, and of course, everything is like, I feel better. I'm like, and not scientific. None of the science is there yet. And I don't mean to say it's not going to be. It just isn't. If you actually go find all the studies, very unproven. And that's my issue with it. It's like, you feel better? Really? Thank you, Dr. Einstein. Like, I don't get it. Like, and and also you're using peptides that have been mixed largely in China right now, which is where they're getting from them. And so whenever someone does this, they're like, peptides. I'm like, China, they may not be pure. Sepsis is real bad, and you could get sepsis. Like, I'm like, why are you doing this for unproven science? Like, it's kind of silly, and people just shove it in there. And they're like, Scott does a lot of these things,
Scott Galloway, your co-host on Pivot,
and then
Pivot
NADS.
podcast.
That's the other one. I feel better. Some of it is useful for healing wounds and things like that. And
NADS,
it's another thing. The rich people go through them really fast, and they in the Hamptons they go through them. Oh, I'm taking this, I'm taking that. Red light, people are mad at me, but most of the science is somewhat promising, but not yet.
This is red light therapy.
Red light therapy. It works on plants in space. It helps them grow.
Okay.
And if you're a plant in space, I highly recommend it. Some inflammation stuff, sure. But my issue is the amount of money and the promises. It's not just possible small amounts of inflammation. It is going to make you young. It is going to solve your cancer. Like, I'm like, no. They don't usually do that with red light. But what they do is they ascribe, if you look online, they give it an answer for everything. And the science just isn't there. And I'm just like, I'm sorry, I cannot find really good scientific gold standard proof that this is the case. And so, but then you have people who just swear, I feel better. But I'm like, with the $600 face mask, same thing with heavy supplements, right? Some of them, vitamin K, probably. It's hard to get it elsewhere. B12, yes, that's something you don't get as easily. But, say fish oil. I get it, why people are taking it. Eat a piece of fish. Like, I don't know. Or protein maxing. That's the other one. Men. You don't need this much protein. Every single study says you don't need this much. You need a certain amount. That's true. Same thing with fiber, same thing with everything else. But what they do is they take one thing and then take it. If a little protein is good, then a lot of it has to be really good for you. And it's not. RFK, it's not. Do not eat caribou, no matter what he says. It's not going to be good for you in the end, and you're going to die. And so a lot of these interventions are not going to be good later, right? When you're older. And I worry about that. Hyperbaric chambers. I went in one. You do not need a hyperbaric chamber unless you are involved in the building of the Brooklyn Bridge in the 1890s, yes, or 70s. That's an important bends. The bends is a terrible thing, and you should go in a hyperbaric chamber. There's some indication around wound healing when you have surgeries and stuff, but a lot of people are using it like just go in it. And again, if a little oxygen is good, a lot more might be better. And they can also blow up. That's always an issue. And you can get a stroke in there too. Like, I'm sort of like, I feel better. Oh, okay, great. Good for you. It costs $300 to sit in there and get more oxygen. It's people take advantage of it. I'm trying to think of some other things. There's so many. Recently, there was electric.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Electric vests when you exercise, it shock you. I mean, you remember those, remember the thing where they shook your butt back in the old days?
Yeah.
That didn't work.
Yes.
But everyone was doing it. That's the kind of thing.
Electric vests that shock you while you're working out?
Someone sent it to me the other day. Yeah, you wear a vest. Well, weighted vests, fine. Okay. Those are okay. Those seem fine. You have to be careful on your joints and everything else. But they're electric vests and they shock you. I couldn't even. I was like, no. We're not doing this.
Something else you test on the show alongside the aforementioned Scott Galloway is sound therapy.
Sound therapy, which is actually, at some point, there's some indications that sound can calm people, cortisol issues, things like that. But you already know this when you listen to a symphony. You already know this as a human being. And so but here it is taken to extreme. It's a giant 15,000. I forget how much it was. It was some number that was large. It's a pod that you sit in and you listen to indigenous music and it vibrates. I don't know. I could sit on the subway and listen to Tchaikovsky and have the same experience. You know what I mean? Kind of thing. And so they're trying to do the science around it. And I do, I think through history, music has been really important to people and their for calmness, for cortisol, for all kinds of, I can see it, but it's also, again, unproven. And you don't need a pod to do it.
Right. Spotify subscription might do the trick.
Correct. Calm. Whatever. Just use Calm. And, I think at the same time, then people are going into chatbots and using their phones, which are very bad for your health. constant doom scrolling, besides upsetting you and creating all manner of problems, has all these deleterious effects like on you. And it's going to be utterly proven, the negative effects, especially chatbots on people. They start to get psychosis around it, especially with kids. A lot of kids have committed suicide after having chatbot relationships, which a lot of these tech companies are coming in. And so the things that really hurt you, no one's focused on, because this is what we've accepted as our reality, which is constantly being staring at a device.
I completely see how being sucked into your device all day long, specifically social media, with the toxic comparison and anger and anxiety,
Lack of movement.
But chatbots specifically, like I talk to Claude about my creative stuff.
That's fine.
Okay, that's different.
It would be better to talk to a human. Like, actually,
I do both.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I think I'm talking about the dependence on it, and you can see it moving that direction. I interviewed Sherry Turkle of MIT, who's been studying this for years, and it is starting to become a real problem, because it was usually a fringe thing that people had. But when you start to create relationships that are without friction, it's not good for your brain. It's just not. One of the things that Silicon Valley people say all the time, the word seamless. Let's make it seamless. I'm like, let's not make it seamless, because friction is actually very good for your cognitive development. Friction, doing things different, interacting with people. Zeke does all kinds of different things from his job. He makes honey, he dances, he does very good for your health, actually, your cognitive health especially, which is critically linked to your other health, right? It's all part of a system. And so, it's fine, but it becomes addictive in that way. And especially, with young men watching porn all the time, young women, self-esteem, this all has health effects on people. And then it removes people from other people. So I did a sober rave, which I hated because I don't like dancing in the sauna with young people. But it's actually very good for you. It's like group activities. I play game play. I brought a neuroscientist to a game playing night in Brooklyn, where all these young people put their phones down. They play games, mahjong, chess, poker. By the way, these young people cannot play poker. I beat them all very badly, like a drum. I beat them like a drum is what it was. But it was actually fun. You know what I mean? And I felt better after it, and I couldn't quantify it. But we spent a lot of time, because of digital issues, away from each other. If someone was like, what's the number one thing you can do for longevity? I was like, well, don't be poor, really. That's, be rich, because that really helps you in terms of longevity. Two things: universal health care for the whole population, and community, friends and family. Scientific research on this is very clear. Human interaction is probably one of the healthiest things you can do, and have connections with people. And lack of connections, loneliness, we talked about that. The separation and isolation is incredibly bad for humans.
Yes, you interviewed Bob Waldinger, who is, in my opinion, just kind of like world historic,
right,
in terms of what his research has shown, which people listening to the show probably are familiar with. But
the happiness,
this study of multi-generations in the Boston area for 90 years.
Both poor and rich, too, they studied,
Yes, and the number one variable in your longevity is not being in a hyperbaric chamber. No. It's the quality of your relationships.
The quality of your relationships. And it's scientifically, and they're adding things onto that to show that. And I think, oddly enough, people intuitively know this, right? Because the other night I had a mahjong. I got a mahjong lesson. I hired this lady to do. I won it in a school auction, and so she came and invited 16 people who did not know each other very well. They knew me, but weren't friends necessarily, because it's easier to fall into easy patterns with friends. And we had a fucking ball, and everyone was like, I feel better. And I was like, but you actually, if we looked at your brain right now, you would be better, right? And it was really interesting. And it was a feeling of happiness, like happiness of connection. Even negative connections can be helpful, right? Fights and things like that, as long as you're doing them in a healthy and non-toxic way. Even one of the things that I found interesting among the studies was encounters with people you don't know, good encounters socially, like you say hi to a barista or something like that, is good for everybody. And I would challenge everybody. I say this in a lot of things. When you go out for coffee, look at the barista and say, hey, how's your day? This is what happens. Like, you could see, look up, what? Yes. You're interested in me? And follow it with I watched my son do this, and it's really something when you actually are paying attention to it. How's your day? Like, oh, good. Like, oh, what are you doing fun this weekend? Like, it's a game changer, and you could see it, and then you feel better. And then, but there are all kinds of scientific, I mean, Bob is great, this happiness study at Harvard. It's the Harvard happiness study. And it's really quite remarkable. Now, look, miserable people live long too, as we know. but connections.
Who could you be referring to?
My mother.
I thought you were talking about Trump.
No, but she has a lot of community. Oh, he is. Well, he has a lot of community. Oddly enough, he surrounds himself with people all the time. If you think about it, he's very social.
Yes,
he's very social. I don't think he has any friends. I think he has a lot of people he knows. But I do think. I mean, can you imagine, hugging it out with a guy with him? No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't see that. But he has connections. He does make connections, whether they're loathsome people, that's for sure. But he does make connections. He likes those outdoor activities. It's always in service to his ego, so that they come let us adore me kind of stuff.
Watch me cheat at golf.
Watch me cheat. Yeah, golf, stuff like that. But he actually is very social.
No, that is a fair point.
He wants a ballroom, for fuck's sake. He's obsessed with it.
Exactly. We've now moved into the what works section, but I'm just curious, like, has your social life changed as a result of doing this?
Yeah, I'm doing more things I don't. One of the things that Zeke does, which I thought was good, is try something you couldn't try. Like, I learned to play mahjong. I'm not going to keep at it necessarily, but trying to do different. I'm looking at that ukulele over there. I'm like, I should learn to play that ukulele. Some people do crosswords, but it has to be beyond that kind of stuff. I definitely remove the phone from my presence more, because you have to. You're addicted to it. You can't help but look at it. It's an addiction machine. And so I remove it. I spend a lot more time with my kids. You don't have to do constant things, just sitting quietly. The other day I found myself, I went into a church and just sat. I haven't been in a church in a long time. It was lovely, actually.
Am I going to get Kara Swisher meditating?
No, never. I'm such a monkey mind. No, I'm the worst meditator. I can't do it. I have a monkey mind.
Can we talk about this?
Sure.
Because Zeke's on my show as part of this same series we're doing about longevity, and he said the same thing to me.
Can't do it.
And
none of the Emmanuels can meditate.
I want to preface what I'm about to say.
Are we going to meditate?
No, we're not. I want to preface it by saying I'm not trying to convince you to do anything. I never do that. I just want to convince you that the story you're telling yourself that you can't do it is false.
That's true. You're right.
So meditation does not involve clearing your mind. It just means focusing your mind for a nanosecond or two on one thing, usually your breath. Mm-hmm. Every time you get distracted, you start again. And in the waking up from distraction, you learn to be less owned by the monkey mind.
Oh, interesting.
So
there is so much science on meditation being so good for your health. I mean, absolutely. There's no question in my mind that of all the many things you could do, a meditation every day is probably one of the most healthy things you can do for yourself, both cognitively and personally, and from just a soul point of view, right? But health, absolutely. Every bit of science explains this very clearly, and it's one of the ways to do it. Here's how I do it. One of the things I started doing, I did VO2 max, which I do think is actually a great indicator.
Can you describe what that is?
VO2 max is basically how your muscles and heart work together in a more efficient manner. That's the easiest way to put it. And you have a score. When you take the test, you put one of those, one of these masks, like Bane masks on your face. Tom Cruise has it, and the whole facial breathing thing.
While you're sprinting on
running,
a bike or something like that.
You don't have to run that hard, but you have to run a certain amount. What you want to do is get your heart rate up, and then it's the ability to get it down again. Intermittent running is actually one of the best things. Not a lot of men are like, I'm going to run until I drop. I'm like, don't do that. That's really bad for you. You could possibly have a heart attack. Running up the scale, say zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, go back to zone 1. How quickly does your heartbeat go back down to whatever it happened? In my case, it's 110 to 120. How quickly does it go down from 130? And so VO2 max measures this. That's all. It's a test. And I got my VO2 max up quite a bit. Like, I was in the low 30s. I got it up to 37 now. So I started running. That's what because I used to run. I stopped, and then I started again. It's on the treadmill. And on the treadmill, I don't listen to anything. I don't listen to music. I just do it. And that's my meditative state.
That is meditation.
That's what I do.
Yes.
And I let my mind wander, and I get bored, if that makes sense. And that's the hardest part. Is I was with my kids the other day, and there was a story about boredom and people's inability to be bored now. And my son goes, "What'd you do when you waited in line?" I'm like, "We were bored." You just stood there, and you either talked to people you didn't do anything. Like, you didn't. And there was nothing to look at. Maybe you had a newspaper, possibly, or a magazine, but mostly you were bored. And the ability to be bored is something I want to sort of have happen to me.
Well, a lot of
That's
creativity
meditation.
can come out of boredom.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Where do you get your I get it in the shower.
I often get it in meditation.
Oh, interesting.
Because what's happening is you're turning down the volume on habitual thought patterns, and then new things arrive.
100%. 100%. I do it in the shower. I suddenly am like, oh, yes, that. Like that kind of, because I'm just staring, essentially. And I do think that's, like, a lot of those quiet moments are really important. And I went to Korea, and that's a really interesting country. They've got all manner of problems in Korea, let me just say. But the longevity is going up, 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 especially among women. And first thing is absolutely universal health care. Universal health care for everybody. The rich get better health, but everybody gets a very quality level of health care every year. They can go up to 16 times and get tests and stuff like that. Their focus on the face, people are think is vain. I'm like, actually, it isn't. It's about you're keeping your body feeling good, right? And I think that's interesting. And when you say, how are you? In Korean, what they were telling me is the expression is, how is your body? So they're thinking about it. And then the last thing is their nutrition from a young age. I went to a school, and the stuff they're serving, it's like these kids, it's unrecognizable in this country. They learn from a very young age to eat healthy foods, whether it's fermented foods. RFK, you're right about ferments. You're absolutely right. Ferments are good for you. But fermented foods, they have a protein, they have a whole food, a whole fruit, a whole vegetable. And these kids eat this as if they were eating Doritos and hot dogs. It's really quite something to watch in terms of, but it's not like they don't eat snacks later. I mean, you've seen K-pop Demon Hunters. They absolutely do. But they have a base of healthy eating for the whole population that I think is probably contributing to that.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. For some people, summer is their favorite season. Travel picks up, kids are out of school, and adventure is the focus. For others, juggling it all can be tough and can lead to overwhelm and counting down the minutes until the kids are back in school. Many people worry they're wasting the days of sunshine, not feeling at their best. I get it. Actually, historically, summer has been a time where my depression would come back, and then I would feel guilty about not enjoying all the goodness of summer, which can lead to a kind of downward spiral. Therapy can be a great way to help you better understand what your needs are, to feel more confident about setting boundaries, to create a version of summer that actually feels good for you. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, having served over 6 million people globally. BetterHelp therapists work according to a strict code of conduct and are fully licensed in the U.S. You don't have to say yes to everything this summer. Find support in therapy. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/happier. That's betterhelp.com/happier. Okay, just to reset, we've talked about the bullshit. We've talked about the stuff that works. And then there's a subsection of the stuff that works that is frustrating for you because it works, but it's so expensive most people can't access it.
Which I find irritating.
So
Yes.
what goes in that category?
Just even the ability to belong to a health club and go there, right? Many people have two jobs. That was one exchange with Bryan that I thought was my favorite in the whole series, where he goes, everyone can get a good night's sleep. I go, everybody can't, Bryan. Like he thought that some people, you're a single mother, two jobs, you got to deal in a bad section of town. You can't sleep very well. You have housing insecurity. You have healthcare insecurity. You have childcare insecurity. One after the other, the health implications and that to me is one of the things that was sort of like the amount of money we spend in not keeping people well at the beginning in preparation. It's like putting $20 in the bank, and then when you get to 70, you have $1 million. Like, this is the money we pay in that period. The statistic that got me is, I think in this country, our health span is 65. Apparently, that's what it's at now. Our lifespan is 79 now, which seems very young for most people, right? But that's what it is. That 14-year gap is all sick care. It's, hypertension, inflammation, cancer, blah, blah, blah. First, you have to collapse that. That would be great, to collapse the lifespan and health span. The other part is we spend $15K, a little bit more than $15K on healthcare per capita. and we are at the lowest of every rung, every single indicator of health. We are at the bottom of. Korea, every peer country essentially is $6,000-$7,000, and they have so much better health outcomes. So, to me, it's an economic argument. What are we doing? Like, we're wasting money on people dying, like in ways that are totally preventable, and that's the other part. So, and let me put the last part I would say is some of the medical breakthroughs. That to me was really exciting. That's the part I really thought was important. Was that all this noise, everything else, there are medical breakthroughs happening around mRNA technology.
What's that?
Vaccines.
Okay.
It's the mRNA vaccines. It was used for COVID, but mRNA is messenger RNA, ribonucleic acid. It's the COVID vaccine, except it was originally studied for a cancer vaccine. They will be able to do a cancer vaccine. They just announced a pancreatic cancer vaccine. This is this is a cancer that is not easily treated the traditional ways. They've made huge strides in breast cancer and lung cancer, not lung cancer, breast cancer and a variety of cancers, but lung cancer and pancreatic cancer are very difficult to treat with current methods. And so these mRNA technologies are amazing, but what is the Trump administration cutting? So I visited an mRNA lab, and essentially the head of it, who won a Nobel Prize, is like, they're murderers. We're killing people. So mRNA technology, amazing. GLP-1 technology is really interesting, speaking of peptides, but this idea of helping use this drug to get people slim, but then accompanying it with food education and exercise education. Groundbreaking.
But they're expensive.
They are now. They shouldn't be. If I was running it, I'd give everyone who needed a GLP-1 should take it. And then there's right now all these studies about its help in cognitive health and strokes and things like that.
Do you take one?
I do now, because my cardiac doctor was like, a very small amount, but it's like 2. I forget what it is. I haven't started yet. But it's in order to prevent the stroke, because there's all these indications that GLP-1 drugs help with strokes, and I don't want a recurrence of my stroke. All manner of things, but we should be doing gold standard tests and all of this for our citizens so that we get rid of obesity, we get rid of food noise. It has indications around addiction. I interviewed Ron Kessler, his former FDA commissioner. He himself, smart man, educated man, has enough money, was way overweight, and GLP-1s is the only thing that worked. I just saw Whoopi Goldberg, who talks about it. She was 230 pounds. Now she's healthy. She said she's gotten rid of her hypertension. She's gotten rid of, there's all these great stories, but it's not just about weight. It's about other things too, addictions. The other thing I think is amazing, I hate to say AI, but AI and drug discovery, AI and cancer research, gene folding, CRISPR. I interviewed Jennifer Doudna. I went to one lab at Stanford, right when I had my stroke. They used a catheter that went up my leg and put a plug in my heart, right? That was perfect. There's a new technology they're working on at Stanford, which is astonishing, that I show in the show, where they have this, remember the Fantastic Voyage when they injected the little ship into the rich guy in order to solve the clot or whatever he had? It's look it up. It's about these bunch of scientists that get injected into the body and they get attacked by white blood cells. But anyway, it's a great show. It's an old, and it's like all old, glitchy, technology that looks stupid on the screen, but it's you can see the string for the thing. And so this thing goes, this is a little nanobot. It's not that small. It's small. It's injected into your neck if you have a stroke. Right when you're having a stroke, they inject in your neck, and through magnets and AI and a mapping of your particular brain, it goes to the stroke and it eats it, and then it comes out.
Wow.
Now they have to put catheters up there, which is better than before, right? Everything has gotten better. And if sometimes the blood clot would break off and go further, which is worse. Right? So there's just this amazing technologies that people work on, all of which are being decimated by the Trump administration. The stuff we're doing here around vaccines alone is murderous, as far as I'm concerned. That we are demonizing a technology that has been so helpful to humanity and keeps us healthy. The fact that measles is back. I mean, I call Robert F. Kennedy Jr. best friend to measles. And yes, he's right about eating apples, Robert. Thank you. No shit, an apple's good for you. So
just to double click on what you said before, that we may have a vaccine for pancreatic cancer.
Yes. They're working. I just interviewed the guy who's working on it, Sloan Kettering. What they do is they Eventually, this was really interesting, you'll get the vaccine before you get pancreatic cancer. And there's lots of different ways to do this. One is to prevent things that later lead to pancreatic cancer. Another one is to solve give you a longer lifespan in the thing. People with pancreatic cancer usually get like 6 months to 2 years to live, essentially. The people that are on these vaccines, these specialized vaccines aimed at them, which is how mRNA technology works, they're living 8 to 9 years, which is really it changes the game. And then think about all that expense in that time period of dying, like the amount of how it's expensive to die in our country, right? Because we hold people on that should go, and we also can't solve the real problems, which is mobility and stuff. And then the last thing I thought was amazing in Korea was these exoskeletons, that they're working on all these devices that are powered by AI and mechanics. It used to be a lot of this stuff was just mechanical, but AI is now involved, that people that can't walk will walk with these exoskeletons. And think about the healthcare implications there, sitting in a chair, all that healthcare. If you could walk and be mobile, it changes your mental outlook, it changes your health outlook. And the government is funding them. Lots of experiments, even AI that, I think is quite the way we are putting it out, because the companies are in charge of guidelines for AI, and they're always going to try to take advantage of you. In Korea, they're funding a thing, the government is, where old people, they put AI in dolls, like these dolls. And these women who are lonely, like older women are lonely, they give them these dolls and they learn to play with them, which is always good to play with a doll. Like, it makes you feel better. And the AI engages with them. The dolls talk to them and they can respond in real time, kind of stuff like, how are you doing today? Oh, I'm bad. Oh, the weather's bad. Like you're talking to a person. It solves the loneliness issue they have there. And at the same time, they then bring all the women with the dolls together. But the government is controlling it so it doesn't get out of hand. It doesn't say, hey, perhaps you should hang yourself today, which some of this AI does say to young people especially. So
one thing I'm hearing, and this was a few sentences ago, that the future of healthcare is going to be hyper-personalized.
Yes, it will be. Yes.
They will understand your body and,
that's right,
and help you specifically.
Although bodies have a lot of commonality, right?
Yes,
There's a lot of commonality in a lot of things. And that's one of the things that is, we do treat it a little bit too artisanally in the wrong things, and not, we should do more of commonality. But yes, they will be able to, why not use technology for what's good at, which is pattern matching, all manner of things it does well. But to me, they will be able to target your particular cancer cells. And one of the people I interviewed, as much as I give tech people a hard time, was Reed Jobs, the son of Steve Jobs. He's been investing in all manner of stuff, especially because his dad died of pancreatic cancer. But one of the things he was working on was liver cancer, and getting rid of as I believe I'm telling it correctly, is if you get Hep B, I think it's Hep B, leads to liver cancer almost all. Alcoholism and Hep B, I think it's Hep B, not A. And if you can you can block Hep B from ever happening, you don't get liver cancer. Or a lot of people don't. If you drink too much, you're probably going to get it. And so that's kind of really promising. And I find that really interesting to try to use, these technologies. Drug discovery is another one. How quickly, like shingles, they didn't think it was for cognitive health, but AI figured that out, right? Like, wow, we would have gotten there. But think of all the people you can help in the interim that you did it. And so that's how I look at technology. And so there's all manner of things it's going to be able to help us with, but it is not distributed among everybody, because it's such a cost to keep people sick. It's such a cost to have the amount of money we spend on healthcare is such wasted money. And it's also, it's a happiness deficit, right? Like, being sick sucks, and it takes the joy out of your life. And, it doesn't allow you to be with your kids. It gets in the way of a lot of things. It makes you miserable. It makes you dependent on drugs. And we did a little psychedelics. I took ketamine.
Did you like it?
No.
Why not?
Because I felt alone, and I don't like being alone. I wasn't lonely. I'm never lonely. I wish I was lonely sometimes. I mean, everyone has trauma. It's been shown to have some really great effects on people with PTSD and vets and stuff. I want them to do lots of experiments. I just talked to Michael Pollan about it just last week. There's all manner of interesting experiments being done here, and anything to get us off of opiates aces in my book, essentially. Again, the problem is it's being used recreationally. It's being used as a party drug. It's being used not in the ways that could, we need those standard tests to understand what works and what doesn't. I just didn't like it. I felt isolated in a way I didn't enjoy. It was also nauseating. I'm not a drug person. I don't do drugs, but a lot of people like them. They like ayahuasca. They like mushrooms. And I'm all for studying. Like Michael talked about LSD in his last book, because it was demonized by the Nixon administration because all the hippies were trying it out. But there were so many promising studies around LSD that just we don't know. So why don't we find out and try to get that? And I'm all for that.
Let me end where we started.
Sure.
Because I think one of the things that makes your work in this space distinctive is the fact that you're talking about longevity in the light of death.
Yes, and in the light of technology.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, fair point. But let me stick with the death part for a second.
Yeah.
You're essentially making the case, and millennia of contemplative history would back you up on this, that contemplating death is actually additive.
It is. It's funny. I'm going to reach down for my phone here, but one of the things I have on my phone is a thing called WeCroak.
Oh, yeah. I've had the founder on my
I love
podcast.
him. He's such a sweetheart. So, with WeCroak, it says one of the things, and well, this is an interesting one. It comes up with quotes, and it says, in Bhutan, they say contemplating death 5 times daily brings happiness. I absolutely agree with it every time. And then this one is, I think it's always nice to know that you are not alone, even in death. Joe Brainerd. True. It is. I think knowing you're going to die is, as I quote Steve Jobs, is the single greatest gift that, because it spurs you to live your life. And I got a lot of inspiration from Steve, who died far too young. He gave that speech at Stanford that was so famous, his death speech, essentially saying, anytime I feel stuck, I think I'm going to be dead. And then I change, and then I get up, kind of stuff. And he said it's the single greatest invention of life. He was so different than all these people, these narcissistic pricks. He was narcissistic in his own way, but not. He had a much broader thing. And I think in dying young, the shame was that he was beginning to understand that idea, and was trying to create a life where he was thinking about death. And it was, if you will read any speech, read that speech he did at Stanford about death. And that really was very profound to me, because if you do that, I know it sounds dumb, but people are like, how are you so successful at changing, I always change things in media. I try new things. You've done it yourself, right? I was like, because I'm going to be dead in 50 years. And they're always like, what? I'm like, that's every time I don't want to do something. I'm like, oh, hey, guess what? In 50 years, I'll be dead. And then I'm like, oh, okay, then I'll do it. And so I think it promotes risk. It promotes innovation. It promotes not getting dragged down by things as if you're going to be here forever. And I think it gives you freedom. That's what it did for me, at least. I don't know if it does that for you. You've changed, right?
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Why do you do what you do?
There's the question of why do I do what I do, generally, and I think it's kind of summed up in this tattoo I have on my wrist. FTBOAB is just a Buddhist expression for the benefit of all beings. That's what I do. I'm very clear about it. My job is to be of use to other human beings.
Right.
So my decisions are made in that light.
In that light. So it's a service light.
Yes.
Mine more another Buddhist saying, which is everything is subject to decay. Those that know this are at peace, though, in a world of pain. That's a famous quote, right? And so on my tattoos, let's compare tattoos.
You have one?
I have lots of tattoos. I have lots. These are my 4 kids, Louis, Clara, Alex, Saul. They're in little hearts. But underneath it is the symbols. And I have a ginkgo leaf on my leg that I hate as my first tattoo. I don't like it. It looks like a shamrock. And then people think I have a shamrock. And why would I have a fucking shamrock? It's a ginkgo leaf, the greatest, the longest living plant on Earth. So this is entropy. This is entropy, which is all things are subject to decay. All things will be destroyed. No matter, everything's on its way to something else. That's chaos, right? But the opposite, there's always an opposite chemical reaction to everything. This is entropy, which is everything's on its way to something else. And so this is about building. And if you're in the Indian religion, it's Ganesh, destroyer and creator. There's so many themes about that. So these two belong together. Yes, it's being destroyed, but guess what? It's I'm going to be something. I'm not going to be this table someday, but something else. Like, who knows? Like, and at the end of the show, we talk about that with my brothers. We're eating oysters. And I was like, well, they think everything is something else. And we had been talking about my grandmother, and we were starting to eat the oyster. I'm like, maybe this is grandma. And then we just go, delicious. And it was kind of wonderful that, and that's a famous quote, the king eats the thing, and then he becomes the worm, and then the worm eats the king, and then the worm is eaten by the bird, who then is eaten by the king. And you kind of like that. It's a good policy, and yours is in service, which is really nice. I'm not as service-oriented as you are, which I appreciate.
I'm in service at my best.
I see.
In moments where I'm being shitty, it's when I fall out of
service to others. Yeah. I think of it more like, I know it sounds dumb, but I was at a job I didn't like, and I thought, I did the death thought. I'm like, oh, I'm going to be dead. I gotta get out of here. I gotta get out of here. And the person who I quit, it was a big job, goes, nobody quits here. I'm like, well, they do. They actually just did. And they're like, why are you quitting? And I turned to them, I said, you want to know the truth? And they said, yes. I said, I don't want to talk to you anymore. And they were like, what? And I go, ever. Like, the minutes of my life, tick-tock away. And I say that to my kids all the time when they keep me waiting. I'm like, tick-tock, let's go. And they were like, what? And I go, gotta go. And I couldn't. And like, I was so aware of time. And I think my favorite quote of all time is, I think it's Henry IV. I waste time, and now doth time waste me. I don't waste time.
And we are all the beneficiaries of it.
Oh, thank you. You too. I think what you're doing is amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for your time.
Thank
grateful for your work.
Good.
This was awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to everybody who worked so hard to make this show. 10% Happier is produced by Tara Anderson and Eleanor Vasili. Our recording and engineering is handled by the great folks over at Pod People. Lauren Smith is our managing producer. Marissa Schneiderman is our senior producer. DJ Kashmir is our executive producer. And Nick Thorburn of the great indie rock band Islands wrote our theme. One last thing I want to say before you go. If you enjoy this show, please do me/us a solid. Follow the show and leave a rating and a review on whatever platform you watch or listen to us on. It only takes a minute. It's free, and it really helps new people find us and spread the good news that the mind is trainable. Thank you. Sincerely, I mean it. Thank you.